concussion coming off that thing standing right here. Alright, PS90. We're going to go ahead and put a couple more rounds down range. See how she does. Shooting great so far. It's truly hard to believe that the P90 has been around for almost 25 years now. It's still making waves in the firearm industry today. It's still innovative in a lot of ways despite its age. I remember the first time I ever heard of the P90. I hate to admit, but it was a video game. You'll probably remember in the late 90s, GoldenEye 007. That's the first time I'd ever heard of it, and it made quite an impact in that game. There was this little black box of a gun called the P90, and that thing was ridiculous. It had a rate of fire that would make even Oddjob quiver in fear, and it would mow down everything and everyone in its way. It truly was something special. That being said, I believe the PS90 was introduced in 2005 or so it's only been around for civilian use for about 10 years. Obviously, the main difference being it's a semi-auto version, and it has the required 16-inch barrel and overall length. I'm not gonna lie, I get a little bit of a tingly feeling in my bosom whenever I think about F&H USA. I've had some great experiences with their firearms. It's a great manufacturer, high quality builds, many proven designs, and they back up their product. Let's pull this out of here so you can check it out a little bit closer. Alright, so here it is, the PS90. As the name would suggest, the P90 originally went into production in 1990. So this design is well proven. It's been around and already withstood the test of time. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be around for many years to come. And there's a reason it's been around for so long. Immediately you notice that it is definitely high quality. The materials are nice. It's well put together. It's also very functional. And it just looks cool. It's very futuristic looking, a little spacey. But I think that definitely helps to drive the sales and keep it in the market. One of my very favorite things about the PS90 is it is truly ambidextrous. Bullpups are notorious for having issues with the ejection port for left-handed shooters. The PS90 has completely negated that issue by having a downward ejecting system. It works great. Not only can you shoot just as comfortably left-handed as you can right, it drops all of your brass into a very neat little pile right by your feet. So one of my favorite things about shooting the PS90, it keeps all your brass right together. The 5.7 pistol, on the other hand, man, it flings it, I don't even know where. You can see pieces of it all over the place. But the PS90, it's very handy for cleaning up your brass. And for about a quarter of a century, the P90 has really been your only option for a downward ejecting bullpup until just recently. I know Kel-Tec is supposedly coming out with the RDB. Who knows when it's actually going to be available to the public. But besides that, this is a very rare system for whatever reason. I don't know why, because it works great. It's very functional. And it's a feature that's even more at home with a bullpup, so you're not getting any brass in the teeth or that extra gas from the ejection port right by your mouth. You will hear complaints occasionally about not being able to look easily into the chamber, but with how small and light the gun is, it is very easy just to rotate it that way and then check and see what's going on if you have any kind of a malfunction. So I think they make a bigger deal of it than it really is. So as you can see right here, rotate, and it's pretty easy to see. Beyond the downward ejecting system, the charging handle is also completely ambidextrous. It is identical on each side, absolutely no difference whether you're a righty or a lefty. It's also non-reciprocating, which for me, when it comes to a bullpup, is almost a necessity. Moving on, the safety selector is also completely ambidextrous, easily activated, right or left-handed. It's a unique design, but it seems to function just fine. The mag release is also symmetrical, easily activated from either side. See a theme going on here? It is a proprietary design. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it functions just fine. Not as easy to say an AR, I would say, but maybe with a little bit of practice, you can get pretty proficient with it. I always tend to not square it up exactly when I'm coming down. But yeah, it works. Personally, I don't mind things being different. I like trying out new systems and learning new things. If it is going to be your go-to weapon, you definitely want to make sure you train with it though. I mean, this truly is an ambidextrous gun. Even looking down the sights here, if I can get this right, you can see, hold on, let me get behind it. There are also iron sights on the sides, left and right. When it comes to the stock here, it's nothing special, very simple. Obviously, it's not going to be adjustable in any way. Also, one of my biggest gripes with the P90 or the PS90 is the cheek weld. I'm not the biggest fan of the cheek weld that you get with the PS90. As you can see, it's more of a chin weld right here. I like getting down here, but there's no way you'd be able to see the optics getting down that low. So you come up and you make it work. It's not overly comfortable. While we're talking about negatives, let's go ahead and knock the others out of the way. I have very few with this rifle. I mean, I really do love it overall. It's exceptional. But one of the major things that I do not like is that it does not have a last round bolt hold open. So obviously you're going to have to charge your gun again once you run dry. Me personally, I really like having a paddle, a bolt release that you can just hit, activate, get right back into battle. This, you know, is just adding one more step. Not the end of the world. Many people are used to that. You know, a lot of AK shooters out there, many European guns don't have that last round bolt hold open. But me personally, I really do prefer it just to save those fractions of a second. Then again, this gun having 50 round magazines isn't going to require you to reload quite as often, unless you have a P90 and you're shooting full auto at 900 rounds per minute. You're going to burn through some ammunition pretty quick. But overall, it does seem like mag change speed on the P90 was not a priority. So along with the very low stock that makes it hard to acquire that solid cheek weld, obviously the optics mounting system is very high as well, absurdly so. I don't really know why it was designed that way. There is all sorts of material right here that could be removed. Obviously there's this space here that was required to make mag changes manageable, but there's at least 1.5 inches of height that could have been taken off. Ultimately, it would be nice if they had some kind of a variant that they would come out with and change that up a bit. While we're talking optics, there have been a number of variants. Originally they had their FN reflex sights. They had very mixed reviews with those. The white ring sights were generally kind of awful. The black ring sights were definitely better, and once you had illumination it wasn't too bad at all. In fact, I don't mind them and kind of like them in some situations, but ultimately I decided to go with a red dot on top. This was a proprietary mount made by FN for the Seymour series, the STS micro red dot sights, and they had their own FN branded version obviously, and I went ahead and did that because I really do love these tiny little red dot sights. They add very little weight and they don't obstruct your field of view at all. On top of that, it's still very easy to acquire your target, and they aren't far behind other options such as an aim point even, besides maybe a slight lag in their durability. But overall, I really have found that this is a system that works great. Again, you're still going to need to use that chin weld to get up and acquire that red dot sight, but I found that it works very well on this platform, and it's been one of my favorites on the PS90. Most variants of the PS90 today are going to come with your standard 1913 Picatinny rail on top, so you can mount whatever optic tickles your fancy. When it comes to the trigger, the PS90 struggles in about the same way that every bullpup rifle does. That is, it kind of sucks. Go ahead and give you a shot here. So it's kind of plasticky. There's not a whole lot of travel though, which is kind of nice, but it kind of sticks a little bit, not real smooth. But when it breaks, it's not too bad, better than many other options out there. Then you've got the reset here. Again, it's a little sticky, doesn't slide real smooth, but it is short. and there's the break again. So overall, definitely not the worst bullpup trigger out there, but it is still a bullpup trigger. While the trigger is subpar, thankfully the PS90 was generally designed for closer quarters combat. That's not to say it's not accurate. That 5.7x28 round actually does a very good job out of this gun. Additionally, that very short travel of the trigger makes it very easy to get shots off fast with the PS90. Also, the 5.7 round has very little recoil, and that only aids you further when you're trying to stay on target. And the PS90 does that as well as any other gun out there. So while the PS90 doesn't pack the biggest punch with that 5.7x28 round, it does allow you to get a ton of rounds on target very quickly because of that minimal recoil and muzzle flip. So let's give it a try. Obviously that's not a difficult shot, but all the same, very little recoil. That 5.7 round really doesn't take much to control whatsoever. Anybody can shoot it. One of the PS90's greatest strengths is also one of its biggest weaknesses. That's the round that it shoots. The 5.7x28 is a cool little round that does a lot of things that other ammunition doesn't, but it has some shortcomings. One of the biggest ones for the average shooter is the price. Generally speaking, you're going to pay around $30 for a box of 50, and it's not easy to reload. You can reload it, I've done it myself, but it's a fairly involved process. You've got to be really careful how you clean your brass because the coating on there is integral to the operation of the firearm. Also, there's a sealant around the bullet. You gotta watch it. I'm not even going to get into all of it. If you want to reload, you can do it. Just know that it's going to take a little bit of extra work. There's plenty of videos out there to walk you through that process if you want to do that. But then the round itself, it's not overly powerful. I'm not going to get into a caliber debate, but generally speaking, it has a very specific purpose that it was designed for, and that's penetration. It does other things very well, obviously. For one, as I mentioned, the felt recoil is minimal, so it's easy to stay on target. Also, the round itself is very small, so it enables you to have such a large mag capacity. With that rifle cartridge-like taper, it has some inherent advantages over pistol cartridges. So out of the 5.7 pistol, the plates on that dueling tree right there didn't always want to swing. We'll see how it does out of the PS90, see how much extra oomph that barrel gives it. I've got to aim like up and in between the plates. This red dot sight's so far off. As you can see, the barrel length with the PS90 definitely makes a difference. That pistol, just with the angle that thing's sitting at right now, it's kind of sunk down in the mud forward. The FN 5.7 pistol doesn't really want to swing the plates. The PS90, on the other hand, for the most part, was getting the job done. So that extra velocity with that longer barrel makes a difference for sure. As I mentioned earlier, the magazines hold 50 rounds, so you won't be running dry too quickly. They are also translucent, which I really like because it's very simple to see how many rounds you have left. These magazines are actually really cool, the way that the rounds have to rotate as you load them. Check it out right here. And watch as it rotates as I put the second one in. So as you can see that action there? See that? It's a pretty cool little system that it's got going on, and my first thought would be that could cause some issues with the reliability, but I haven't seen any problems at all. When it comes to dimensions, that really is one of the biggest selling points of the PS90. Even with the 16-inch barrel in the PS90, it comes in at just barely over 26 inches. So the thing is snug. If you wanted to SBR it, it's going to be even smaller at under 20 inches. Truly something that you could take anywhere. Also, the weight is exceptional. The PS90 comes in at just over 6 pounds. And again, if you wanted to SBR it and knock some of that weight off, it comes in at about 5.7. And given that weight and length potential, the PS90 really is one of the best candidates out there for an SBR. Overall, the ergonomics are great. I am a big bullpup fan. I like how it fits so snug and close to you. The controls are all easily accessible and easily manipulated. The grip itself feels comfortable, and although it has a unique look to it, the design seems to work well. The only thing is, again, that cheek weld is hard to acquire with such a low stock. When it comes to aftermarket parts and accessory, the PS90 is no slouch. It's been around long enough that there are definitely options out there, and it has a bit of a cult following. There's all sorts of optics mounting options. You can find third-party triggers, all sorts of barrel shrouds, faux suppressors, extended rails. You can find butt plates and cheek pads and mag couplers. Really, name it and you got it when it comes to the PS90. Ultimately, when I'm evaluating a firearm, the reliability is what makes or breaks it for me. And the PS90, it has functioned 100%. I've had no issues whatsoever. I give it my seal of approval, whatever that's worth. So if you're looking for a different gun that's going to stand out on the range, maybe it has some sentimental value from pop culture because it's literally everywhere. And then depending on your purpose for this gun, that 5.7 round that you can shoot so quickly on target with such a massive mag capacity and great penetration, if that suits your needs, this may be the gun for you. The PS90 really is one of my all-time favorites. While it might not be my crap it's the fan ultimate go-to, it definitely has a place in my arsenal. The PS90 is going to be around for the long haul. It will retain value and serve you well. If you decide to spring for one, you won't be sorry. Although it's not that loud, in fact, shooting it without hearing isn't bad at all. Maybe there's something wrong with my hearing, because that should bother me a little bit. I'll put hearing in anyway. It's not loud at all though. Oh, is that all I had in it? I thought I had more than that. There she is. PS90.